Most of you probably think you have to have it all figured out before applying for that job. Like there's one perfect path, but you just haven't found it yet. If you're applying for everything, you stand for nothing. You don't need a perfect path, you need a path. So here's how I figured out my career lane. I stopped looking at job titles and I started looking at responsibilities that I was actually drawn to. For me and what I nerd about, it was always the why behind customer behavior. Nerdy shit. But I loved it. It's not the campaigns, it's not the tactics, it's why people buy. It's how I can convince people to purchase a product or how that product makes them feel. And honestly, I wasn't deep into podcasts or marketing books. I was out living my life, hanging out with my friends. But when I did pick up a book, it was about atomic habits or effortless experience. It was books about how I can build my skill set to be better than it was yesterday. Once I had clarity about the things that I loved learning about and the things that I loved practicing every day, I stopped applying to random ass marketing jobs and started applying to jobs that had to do with consumer psychology. My applications got smarter and my interviews got better because I wasn't trying to be everything. I was trying to be something that was very specific. And most interviewers were looking for precise or checkable skills. But I kept showing up to the interviews talking about customer behavior and the psychology of why people buy. And honestly, I had to march to my own beat to make people believe that understanding why you buy is the marketing skill they were looking for all along. And the right people eventually got it. So here's what I want you to try this week. I want you to pay attention to yourself. What articles do you actually finish reading? What materials or what social media content do you actually consume that brings you joy? Write those down. That's your clue. That's the lane you should be starting from. You can always change it later, but pick one. And honestly, try things on, even if they feel beneath you. Maybe you're at a job and you don't want to take on a responsibility because you think that's beneath what you're actually doing. You never know what you could be taking on that might lead you to the next skill set, that might lead you to the right job. You're not wasting time, you're actually building a map for yourself. A lot of you are probably looking at your past experience right now and thinking none of this is relevant. Like your past jobs are working against you. What I've learned is your past isn't a gap, it's your actual stack. You've been building skills this whole time, you just haven't connected them to where you're going. So here's what I did. I took every job that I had. I was a bank teller, I was a corporate travel agent, I was a personal assistant, I was also an office admin that I was absolutely terrible at. But I took so many of the things that I learned across all of those skills and applied it to the work that I do today. I wrote down what I actually did and why people come to me to help them solve their problems. When I was a bank teller, you're dealing with literally the most sensitive subject in somebody's life. And the biggest thing that I learned from that job was having empathy for people. And it was also having empathy for people and how I talk about hard subjects with those people. I applied that to how I market today. How do I make that customer feel? What are they feeling and how can I sell to them better or explain the why they need this product better? I know it's a completely different type of job versus a marketing campaign, but I learned so many things about that customer, why they buy, why they feel a certain way, and how I can market to them in a more psychological way. So in turn, what I found was that bank teller job literally transferred into my marketing career. Customer service, that's customer psychology. Managing difficult clients, that's de-escalation. And that's literally retention 101. And handling chaos, that's startup life. By the time I got to working at Feastables, I wasn't starting at zero. Feastables was literally my 5th startup. And so I had learned how to thrive in a chaotic environment. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to take the last 3 jobs that you've had, forget the titles. For each one, I want you to write down these things. What problems did you solve? What did people actually come to you for? What were you actually good at? That's your transferable stack. That's your answer when you think you don't have experience to apply for a job. You don't need a formal template for this. Just be honest with yourself. Take an assessment of what it is that you've done and apply that to the roles that you're applying for. The skills are there, you just gotta name them. Here's what most people do. They learn exactly what their job requires them to do. They stay in their lane and they wait to be taught. The people who get hired aren't the ones that do their job description. They're the ones who learn something extra that no one ever asked them to learn. At my first startup, I was running travel support, which is pretty basic stuff because it was a travel tech company. However, I was then tasked to create a holistic customer experience department, which then included product support and travel support. But I didn't know how to talk to an engineer. I didn't know the first thing about coding. I didn't know the first thing about technical speak, but I had to go learn it. I had to go learn how to bridge that gap between engineers and customers. There wasn't some magic wand where I was downloading a podcast or reading a book about how to speak engineer in the next 30 days. I had to go figure figure it out. I resourced, I talked to the engineering department. I learned the things firsthand. Suddenly, I wasn't just the support person. I was the person who understood the customers and the product. And my team also exemplified that. That combination made me impossible to ignore. And it came from me doing something that I wasn't necessarily qualified for, but I learned on the job. And then I did the same thing when I made it to Feastables. I had worked in all of these tech startups before. I worked in fintech, travel tech, cybersecurity tech. But by the time I got the Feastables job, I had never worked in e-commerce. However, it was such a digital experience that when I was in the interview process, I talked about how I created user experiences at all of these tech companies and applied that to the e-commerce experience. So here's your move. Look at the current role that you have or the one that you want. What's one thing adjacent to it that you can learn in the next 30 days? For marketing, that might be learning basic email marketing skills, how to actually read analytics, how product teams work and make decisions. Pick one and learn it on your own time. Now you're not just a marketer, you're a marketer who understands marketing operations and the analytics that go behind all of your campaigns. Most people think that the job search is apply, wait, and just pray. You send your resume into the void and hope someone looks at it. Your resume gets you considered, but your reputation is what gets you hired. And reputation comes from being visible, even if you're not ready. My biggest piece of advice to you, if you want a job in marketing, engineering, whatever it is, go on your LinkedIn, make sure your LinkedIn is as up to date as possible with all of your current skill sets. Then I want you to post online. Doesn't necessarily have to be every single day. Maybe it's just once a week, but find something that inspired you for that week. Pop it into ChatGPT, Claude, whatever it is, help you write a post about it. Now, listen, let's not make it AI and weird, okay? But take AI, talk to it, say, this is what I learned, this is what excited me, this is this cool subject matter. Help it break it down into content pillars and literally just free write. Do a post on whatever excited you for that week within the job field that you are applying for, and continue exercising that muscle to become more visible on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn can be a really cringy place, but most people go to look for jobs on LinkedIn. The recruiters are on LinkedIn. Most people, when you submit a resume, you're probably submitting your LinkedIn link, or they're gonna look you up on LinkedIn. And if you're posting content about what it is that you're passionate about and showing your expertise in climbing that cringe mountain, I guarantee that's gonna speak louder than just your random resume that you submitted with your cover letter. And that's how people find you that you don't even know we're looking for you. This one might frustrate people the most. It's all about who you know. And you might be thinking, well, I don't know anyone. At some point, someone has to vouch for you. That's not unfair, it's just literally how it works. But here's what most people miss. You probably already have an advocate. I didn't network in some strategic, transactional way. I was just real with people and wanted to help other people. Then in turn, we all become friends and that becomes my network. A lot of my old bosses I've stayed really close with, and specifically my old CEO at Feastables, we've stayed super tight. We text, we call, we bring each other into projects that we're working on outside of the work we used to do. That's what a real professional relationship looks like. And none of that would have existed if I would have burned a bridge when I left Feastables. Think back through your career. Who's someone in your past jobs that has seen you at your absolute best? An old boss who gave you a shot, maybe a coworker who relied on you, or even a mentor who believed in you before you even believed in yourself. Reach out to them this week, not asking for a favor, literally just checking in and saying, hey, how are you doing? Start the conversation there. Nurture those relationships. Just because you leave a job or just because you stopped working with somebody doesn't mean your relationships die. That is how you build your network. You continuously stay in touch with these people the same way you would with your homeboys or your homegirls. That relationship might be the one that opens a door for you that you didn't even know existed. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. This stuff, it takes time. Picking a lane when you're not sure, posting content that maybe gets 1 or 2 likes, or even reaching out to old colleagues might feel a little weird. All of it is uncomfortable, but that discomfort, that's the price. Everyone on the other side has paid for it. Question is, are you willing to? Now that you've watched this and hopefully you've taken some action, I do job posts every Friday called Dope Jobs over on LinkedIn. Check them out if you're on the market for anything on the e-commerce world. And if you want to go deeper on what a career in customer experience and retention actually looks like day to day, I made a whole video breaking that down. Link is right here.